Welcome to another episode in the series BIMSTEC, Perspectives and Potential of the Region, brought to you by the Awarelogue Initiative. On this episode, we're focusing on Sri Lanka and the contribution Sri Lanka has made to BIMSTEC and how we can look at the way ahead. Our guest on this particular segment is Dr. Chulanee Attanayake, Research Fellow at the Institute of South Asian Studies at the National University of Singapore. She engaged with several Sri Lankan research institutions in the past and has also served as an international expert on the Green Belt and Road. With a PhD from the Central China Normal University, her interests extend into regional development and planning. Thank you so much for taking time to join us on this particular episode and sharing your views with us. If we were to start by asking you, when you look at Sri Lanka and we look at BIMSTEC, can you take us through the national perspective of Sri Lanka's involvement in this grouping?
Thank you, George, for having me in this interesting episode. And I know that this is a very timely discussion that we are having. So to talk about Sri Lanka within the BIMSTEC framework, as we already know, I hope most of us know about this, that Sri Lanka is a founding member of the BIMSTEC. And since its inception in 1997, Sri Lanka has been also an active member. So right now, Sri Lanka is the chair of the BIMSTEC, and this is the second time that we are holding the chairmanship of this international multilateral regional organization. The first time was between 2000 to 2003 period. And during the first time, of course, Colombo promoted the political commitment of member states to intensify sub-regional cooperations and issues related to that. And after assuming the chairmanship in 2018, Sri Lanka has managed to make some significant contribution to this organization. To list or talk about few of these. One is that Colombo, even amidst numerous domestic political changes that happened between 2018 up to now, amidst a pandemic, Sri Lanka still facilitated 3 permanent working group meetings and a senior official meeting. One of the most landmark achievement is finalizing the BIMSTEC Charter. This was after 23 years. So I think Sri Lanka's chairmanship at this round will be a historical moment in this regard. Also, Sri Lanka facilitated endorsing the BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity for Adoption at this coming BIMSTEC Summit, which will be held right now. And there were multiple MOUs, agreements that are prepared to be signed at the upcoming summit. And these agreements are like BIMSTEC Convention on Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters, MOU on Mutual Cooperation between Diplomatic Academies and Training Institutions, and MOU on the establishment of BIMSTEC's Technology Transfer Facility. Now, Technology Transfer Facility establishment is quite important for Sri Lanka because Sri Lanka is the lead for science, technology, and innovation sector. So as we are speaking right now, the 5th BIMSTEC Summit will be held on the 30th. The initial meetings have already begun. And the summit will see the approval for also the BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity. And the group will also work towards finalizing the BIMSTEC Coastal Shipping Agreement and the Motor Vehicle Agreement. Now, these instruments are key to better integration in the region and would contribute to a stable Indo-Pacific region. If I am to talk about the importance of the BIMSTEC for Sri Lanka, in my opinion, I think this has given larger visibility for Sri Lanka as a regional player who has the ability to punch above its weight. Now, we know that multilateral organizations have always been important vehicles for countries like Sri Lanka to overcome our economic, security, and socio-political challenges that we face because of because of us being small nations in the international system. So this having been the chair for this term, BIMSTEC has given greater visibility for Sri Lanka to reiterate its role as a maritime player or a regional player in the Bay of Bengal region. Now, reiterating reclaiming its maritime identity has been there for like couple of years now. Successive Sri Lankan governments has been talking about this for a longer period of time. Now, BIMSTEC has given further opportunity to establish Sri Lanka's position in this region. As I mentioned earlier, Sri Lanka is also the lead country for science, technology, and innovation sector. And as a result of this, Sri Lanka has been able to make some instrumental initiatives in the past 2 years in enhancing the BIMSTEC profile through various initiatives. So as the lead country for technology sector, Sri Lanka has taken the initiative to enhance capacity building and technology management. And Sri Lanka also proposed the BIMSTEC transfer facility in 2006. And now Sri Lanka has put effort in two directions specifically: intra-group technology transfer and intra-regional technology exchanges. And Sri Lanka has identified several sectors such as agro-based technology, food processing, herbal products, biotechnologies, IT areas, for technology cooperation among the member states. All these activities have made Sri Lanka the center for technology innovation and scientific development. And as we already know that Sri Lanka is going through one of the worst economic crises of its history, and perhaps the investments in innovation and technology could be the way forward for our economic recovery. So in this aspect, I would say that Sri Lanka has done quite well using BIMSTEC as an initiative to realize its potential.
When we look at the region as a whole, you've given us the perspective of what Sri Lanka has been able to contribute, how we have been able to add some degree of value. As we go forward, as we look at the region as a whole, as we look at our member states, what do you think we can do, either from a Sri Lankan perspective, in order to enhance integration, to deepen it, to widen it? Is there something more that can be done to gain synergy out of all of our countries coming together and making sure that this grouping becomes a formidable grouping on the world stage?
Definitely. I think what Sri Lanka, as we know, that BIMSTEC was initiated in 1997, but it was largely, I won't say dormant, but less active inter-regional organization for a longer period of time. Recently, we see a lot of activities within the BIMSTEC framework, as well as like we see countries using BIMSTEC as a vehicle to realize their economic and political potential, regional geopolitical potential. Therefore, I have to say that definitely there's a lot that BIMSTEC can do to deepen the cooperation among the member states, and also to synergize their economic, foreign policy, and security interests. If you remember, in December last year, 2021, Secretary General made his BIMSTEC Secretary General made his first visit to Sri Lanka, and during his discussion with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he mentioned that the region the BIMSTEC should explore ways and means to ensure regional cooperation efforts translating into meaningful and tangible benefits. I think that's what we should look forward to as a regional organization in the next couple of years. There are, looking at it in a broader perspective, there are like areas that we can definitely improve our cooperation, for instance, in trade and investment. Now, intra-regional trade among the member states is only around $70 billion at the moment. this is only 7% of the total global trade. And if you compare it to our next closest region ASEAN, it is very less. So there is definitely potential for us to explore in that area. And we know that the BIMSTEC free trade agreement has been in negotiation for so many years now. But I think we should look at the ways in which how we can fast forward this negotiation, because the BIMSTEC countries alone account for a combined GDP of US dollar 3.5 trillion. So intra-regional trade can definitely be helpful for countries like Sri Lanka, which is going through a lot of economic difficulties at the moment. There's obviously issues of trade patterns and complementaries that are like remaining as hurdles, but these are the things that we should figure out quite fast, because the more that we integrate as a region, because we know that India is among the fastest growing economies, but Bangladesh is emerging as one of the fastest growing economies at the moment. So the more the region will be integrated in terms of trade and investment, the better it will be for the rest of the member states. I also think that we also have large opportunities to cooperate in climate change and environment. Climate change and environmental issues are common to all BIMSTEC member states, and the Bay of Bengal is particularly vulnerable to climate change due to its geography, reliance on coastal industries, and also some states do not have the capacity they require to mitigate and face the challenges coming from the climate change. So because of this, it is an area that member states can focus even more. Yes, there's the center, BIMSTEC Center on Weather and Climate located in Noida, and it is promoting and encouraging cooperation between the member states. But I think we have to explore more in that direction, looking at the ways how we can do capacity building, cooperating and exchanging information, conducting joint research, etc. Connectivity is something we talk about. I mean, it is sort of like the 21st century's catchphrase. So the member states are already looking at different opportunities for connectivity, be it in technological sphere, transport and logistics, people to people, etc. So it is also, I think, an important area to look forward when we look at for the future. In particular, I think we have to connect, we have to build a network among the researchers, academics, and think tanks, institutes, educational institutes, because the more that you build the knowledge and research together, the better that we will be able to find solutions to our common issues and problems.
Absolutely, Chulanee, you touched on such very valid points there. Whether it was the last point you raised of where we should look at academic cooperation or what more we could do there. There are several options of tracks that we can be adopting as countries coming together and looking for opportunities. I guess what we really need is the initiative. We've got to be the ones who've got to go out there and say, we've got to make this better. We've got to do more. Because it's pointless at the end of the day to have a summit every few years, to hand over, make a few speeches, and have some meetings and then move to the next point. We need to see tangible progress. People must benefit. It must reach the grassroots level. People must know that BIMSTEC has been able to contribute in this particular arena, in particular areas. And BIMSTEC has focus groups, focus areas, and countries are taking the initiative to take that forward. So that's a plus factor for the grouping as a whole. Thank you so much for giving us of your time and sharing your views through your experience as we look at BIMSTEC, as we try to understand the potential of this grouping. Thank you for joining the Awarelogue on yet another program that we have organized. Thank you for joining us all the way from Singapore. So thank you once again, Chulanee.
Thank you, George. It was a pleasure being here, especially at this very timely juncture. And I totally agree with what you said. That's why I mentioned that what we should focus on is tangible benefits, tangible results, Let's hope that BIMSTEC will be an even more active organization for the sake of all the member countries.
Most definitely. That was Dr. Chulanee Attanayake, the special guest who spoke on this episode when we focused on Sri Lanka in our series, talking about BIMSTEC, looking at prospects, looking at the potential of the region right here on the Awarelogue initiative.